But the question is, the other big thing, of course, is what's happening to the whole hospital space. So if metals are active today, the hospital names have been active for the last few days because of the bunch of issues that are coming up in the healthcare space. So we thought it best to get one of the largest players in and speak about how is the current scenario, what is the growth rate likely to be over the course of the next 2, 3, 5 years, because most market men believe, the people who are bullish believe that this is a story, a compounding story for the next few years. So I mean, of course, that's the case for a chat as well. Hospital stocks buzzing, the slew of IPOs that are there, and heavy HNI interest that is evident in these. So BhavdeepSingh, who is the CEO of Fortis Healthcare, joins in right now to speak about the space at large and Fortis in particular as well. Bhavdeep, good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining in. You know, it seems to be a happy period for hospital companies. One, the stock prices are doing well. Two, from whatever little we hear, their operations are yielding much better results, and the growth for the next few years seems to be secure. What are your thoughts on these points?
Well, good morning. It's tough to be in our space and talk about happy periods. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to heal and hopefully move the nation in becoming a healthier population as we go forward. So I'm not so sure about healthy, but I think when you look at it from a business perspective, there's certainly some good reason to be optimistic about what's happening in our space. We are, as a nation, we continue to be plagued by a very heavy disease burden. As you all know, that over the last few years, this has further amplified when you look at lifestyle diseases. And you know, we continue to be the diabetes capital of the world. Cardiac diseases, there's no sign of letting up there. Some of the other things that are happening now more recently in the last 5 to 7 years is what's happening with oncology and cancer. 1 million new patients are getting diagnosed every year. So I think that that healthcare organizations like Fortis, and specifically our Fortis, for example, we're trying to do what's required. We're trying to take care of the country. We're trying to provide solutions from a disease perspective. And as I said before, hopefully continue to work with the rest of the organizations to build for a healthier India.
Now, the challenge, Mr. Singh, for the hospital industry are two. Number one, capex requirement. As you expand, as you buy new machines, the capex needle is always moving. Second, the split between doctors and the hospital. That number, my understanding is a very high number, and it will really change going forward.
Well, you know, when you look at capex, organizations like ours, so today we operate about 4,500 beds, and we have about 55 hospitals, 55 locations in our portfolio. As we look at specifically what's happening at Fortis, we actually have the ability to go to, from our existing bed count, probably double our bed count, get to 8,500, 9,000 beds in the next 5-6 years in the foreseeable future, and without adding any new locations. So this we can do within the existing hospitals, whether it's maximizing existing capacity, whether it's building new towers, whether it's adding floors, as it were. So I think there is a capex component. I think for Fortis specifically, we're in a favorable position because we can expand our bed size, you know, by double digits, 10 to 15%, without any brand new greenfield type of location. Now, that doesn't mean that it's free. You still have capex investment. You invest in technology, you invest in medical equipment, you invest in talent, and I think those things are very important as you go forward. I think when it comes to capex, at the end of the day, like any responsible organization, you really need to look at what are you investing, what's the value that it creates for the business, and then what return comes out of it. I think from that perspective, while certainly there's a capex burden that any organization like ours would face, I think it's all done with a reasonable intent of being able to deliver good, solid growth. So let me give you an example. We've just invested in our Gurgaon hospital. We've just invested in our first robotic program. Significant investment with respect to building a robotic program, because apart from the technology equipment, you have training, you have infrastructure that you have to do. But when I look at the type of investment we're making in something like that, and the yield and the return we're going to have from it over the next few years, I think it pays for itself very handily. So it's a great way to invest as you go forward. But again, the whole driver for us continues to be on what does India need, what do our patients need, what do our attendants need, and how do we give the best patient care. So that's the first part of your question. I think the second piece on doctors, and you know, we've looked at Fortis has been around for 15 years now. We've looked at different models in working with our doctors. We have some doctors who are employed and actually work as employees of the organization. We have some doctors who are on a consulting basis, and we have different types of agreements with them. I think the whole notion here comes up with 2 or 3 different things. One is that how do you have a good partnership with a clinician? Because clinicians, at the end of the day, they want to take care of patients. They want to do the right thing. They want to continue to, apart from heal and help as many patients as possible, they want to invest, they'd like to have new technology, new equipment, so they can do new procedures as healthcare and medicine continue to evolve. They also want to be involved in research and academics and providing that platform as well. So I think that if you look at it, apart from a single financial relationship, because that's not a good outcome for anybody. It's really about what does a great relationship with a healthcare provider, a clinician, and a patient look at. And if you look at that as a life cycle of an overall relationship, I think it becomes much, much better. I think the returns become much better, and I think that it makes for a much happier workplace, a better patient outcome, and overall better results for everybody.
Yeah, it sure does. But Bhavdeep, tell me about the new hospitals that are going to that are going to come on stream in, say, the next few quarters, or even the next 2 years, for that matter.
We don't, as I just mentioned earlier, we can double our bed size with the existing capacity that we have today. We don't have to open up new hospitals. Having said that, we've just launched a brand new La Femme hospital in Bangalore, launched about 2 months back, and we're very optimistic about what's happening there. We're building another hospital in Ludhiana, another La Femme hospital that will come on stream sometime towards the end of next year. Apart from that, we are looking at mostly brownfield activity. We're adding rooms in many of our hospitals, adding floors in some hospitals, adding a tower as well in 2 hospitals. So in terms of new hospitals, greenfield activity limited with respect to what we're doing. I think we have a lot on our plate right now. I think we have tremendous capacity to grow, not just by virtue of number of beds, by clinical programs, and I think that's going to keep us quite busy as we go forward. And I think that, in addition to what I've just talked about, the other type of capex investment, I think net it'll come back to better patient care, but also better results for the organization.
I've been tracking Fortis ever since it went public, and I've really tracked the journey. Now, my understanding of the journey is that Fortis went global. Then you started, you had a very large global portfolio, you acquired a lot of debt, then you went and sold some of your global businesses. Debt was a problem, debt is not a problem. So what will be your international business like in next 2 to 3 years?
Well, you're right. We did. I think back in 2011 we made a decision that let's go find out what else we can do. What opportunities exist outside of India, and I think that what happened then was just a natural evolution of a company that grows, an organization that matures, that you go through some learning cycles, and I think that's what exactly what the foray was. It was a great learning opportunity for the organization, and we learned 2 or 3 things. Number one is that there's enough to do within the 4 walls of India, within the 4 walls of our country, with 1 billion people, that we should focus our attention on. Number 2, we learned a lot about how, what are some best practices in healthcare across other parts of Asia and parts of Africa as well, and certainly those were good learnings for us as well. We have made a decision 18 months back that our focus is going to be strictly on India with respect to any investment that we make, and we intend on abiding by that decision very, very closely, again, for the reasons I've mentioned. Having said that, we do have a pathology lab today in Dubai that continues to operate as an SRL lab. And we have a hospital in Mauritius, which is a partnership. It's an O&M type of situation. And I would tell you that I think that there are opportunities for us within other parts of Asia, within other parts of Africa, potentially the Middle East as well. However, I think that's going to be more an O&M model, which is operate and manage, which is a model that the hotel industry has made very, very famous, which is essentially it's an asset-light model for us in terms of investment. We bring 3 things to the party. We bring the brand, we bring talent, and we bring process. And I think that will make for a great partnership as we go forward. But I would not be looking for Fortis to be making any significant investment overseas. I would be looking at potential opportunities for Fortis with respect to O&M. Again, asset light, but a great way to proliferate our brand
Right.
and continue to grow the business.
Right. So tell us more about Fortis Malar then, Mr. Singh. You know, you've been clocking quarterly top line of about 30 crore rupees for the past 3 quarters. What's the next big trigger which is going to give that boost for revenues for Fortis Malar?
Fortis Malar is it's really a very interesting location for us. I was there last week. As you all know, Chennai went through a terrible time with the floods, and you know, hundreds and thousands of people's lives were affected there, and a very, very challenging situation for the country and specifically the citizens of Chennai. I had the opportunity to visit the hospital last week on Tuesday. I went with Dr. Panagari, who's our head of medical. Had the opportunity to talk to many of our doctors, many of our attendants, many of our associates in the hospital with respect to what they went to. And you know, as it stands today, we continue to run free OPDs for patients there. We continue to run free OPDs at our upcoming hospital on Arcot Road, which is also in Chennai. Fortis Malar has been a part of the Fortis family now for about 7-8 years now, and continues to do well, as you've just mentioned. As you might be aware, it is home of the leading heart transplant institution in India today, and one of the leading heart transplant institutions in the world. We've done over 60 heart transplants there, which is by far and away the most in India under Dr. Bala, and we continue to have a very, very strong, loyal patient base there. I think with respect to Malar, 2-3 things we can look forward to as we look into the future. One is that the transplant program, we feel, has a huge opportunity to continue to grow. I see no reason why that hospital in itself cannot become a transplant center of excellence that the world will be able to look to for clinical expertise when it comes to anything to do with transplants, and we're very excited about that what that represents.
Bhavdeep.
We also have bought the land next door, so today we have 2 towers in Malar.
Right. No, Bhavdeep, excuse me for coming in. So
we also have 2 towers in Malar, and we're actually building a 3rd tower.
Bhavdeep, if I can come in out here. So I get the base gist about Fortis Malar as well, as you mentioned. But both for Fortis Healthcare and for Fortis Malar, if you can share some numbers, how from a perspective of a shareholder who is watching this interview right now, how do the numbers go for both of these entities for the next couple of years or next 3 years?
So, you know, the numbers are a natural outcome of everything that I'm discussing, and it's very challenging. And for somebody like me to be sitting in a conversation like this and talk about numbers without being able to tell the story, because that's where the credibility comes in. Having said that, I'm happy to answer the questions around it. So 2 or 3 high-level numbers that I can share. Number one is that we continue to have double-digit growth on the top line with respect to revenue. So if you look at where we're going to end this year, what we expect for next year, I see double-digit revenue growth for the foreseeable future without any signs of letting up, and I say that for the next 3, 5, 7 years. We should see, on a same facility basis, same store basis as it were, we should continue to see solid revenue growth. The revenue growth is going to come from 3 areas. The expansion of beds that I've talked about, which I think is going to do extremely well. The expansion of clinical programs. Again, we continue to add areas of expertise, whether it comes to whether it's cardiac, whether it's transplants, I just mentioned, oncology. So that's the second area. I think the third big area that's going to propel us quite significantly is the international medical tourism piece as well. The medical tourism piece has gone from about 100 crore 4 or 5 years ago. We're approaching 500 crore. I see this business doubling in the next couple of years, and I think it's going to do exceptionally well. We're just touching the very, very tip of the iceberg when it comes to the medical tourism piece. So I think at a revenue basis, very, very comfortable in sharing that double-digit growth, and you know, again, without any significant concern there. With respect to the bottom line, we are approaching, you know, as you're aware, we're approaching a PAT positive number. We expect to hit that number, if not at the end of this year, certainly early next year. I see this business being exceptionally strong from a profit basis. We continue to manage costs. We're focusing on OPEX with respect to everything that's controllable, very much driven by a process-driven approach. And I certainly see our bottom line getting stronger and stronger. So again, should approach PAT positive, if not again by the end of the year, early next year. But I would tell you that as you go forward in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I think we're going to be an exceptionally profitable organization, driven by a top line, driven by double-digit, and again driven by the patient care, healthcare initiatives that I talked about earlier. I think from a debt basis, we're sitting at about 1,000 crore today. In the whole scheme of things, not such a bad number to have with respect to the size business we are. But again, my goal as a leader of this business is continue to bring that debt down. And because again, any debt you have interest cost against it. You want to manage that as well. So I think from all indicators, top line, bottom line, cost management, I think we have a very, very bright future ahead of us. And I think Fortis is going to be a leading player in every facet that you can look at, starting with patient care and great clinical outcomes.
Okay, Bhavdeep, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us. All the best. Keep up the good work of healing the patients. That's the view
Thank
from
you very
Fortis
much.
Healthcare. Believe that double-digit growth for both the entities seems to be a certainty for the next few years.
And Fortis Malar at its 52-week high thereabouts, just skirting around it.
Yeah, hospital stocks typically have just done so well. By the way, the markets, I mean, while we're talking about hospital stocks, just look at the markets. They have staged a bit of a comeback as well. So just about 0.25% down now. It's a fairly decent recovery.